premise this morning is that organisational change management, the way in which we transition people through change, is broken. And for those of you that follow me or see me on social media, you may be aware that this has caused a bit of angst out in the industry. And it was only a few weeks ago that Tim Creasy, some of you may know that name, who's the Chief Innovation Officer for ProSci, had a bit of a rant. He called it a Friday rant. And he said, people who are saying change management is dead and change management doesn't work anymore and change management is broken. I was like, we're just stirring the pot. And he said, if these people don't believe that we need to prepare and manage people through change, then they've got another thing coming. Not exactly his words, but that was the gist of what he was saying. So just to put things right, do I believe organisational change management is dead? No, I don't. Absolutely not. Do I think we need it? Yes, we do. Do we need to prepare and manage people through change? Yes, we do. But do I think the way we approach that and think about that today is broken? Yes, I do. But we can fix it. It's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And the reason I think it's broken and needs fixing, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail, is that we're now living in a world where change is constant. It's hitting us all the time. And the approaches and the methodologies and the frameworks we're currently using don't align with that new world that we're facing now. So we need to make a fundamental change and a fundamental shift in the way we think. So what I'd like to talk about this morning is how we make a workforce or get our workforce to accept that constant change is the new black, it's the new norm, and have a resilient workforce. I also want to look at some of the things that the organisation needs to do to survive in a world where change is absolutely constant and complex and unpredictable. We can't see what's coming down the road. And if we're not feeling that today, we're sure going to feel it tomorrow. It's coming. And then also want to talk about how we need to change the way we approach organisational change to cope and survive and thrive in the world where it's constant. I always do that. I point at the screen and it's like I've been in IT, for God's sake, you know. So we hear a lot of talk about change, digital transformation and digital disruption. You know, and I don't think it's about digital transformation. We've been transforming as individuals since the day we were born. You know, we face new challenges, new environments, and we learn the skills and the capabilities we need to cope in that new environment we're faced with. So we're always transforming, so I don't think that's the issue. And in terms of technology transforming us, you know, technology transformed us in the 1930s when we got the first computers. But even before that, you know, I think it was 1886, the first washing machine was invented. In 1901, that was a great invention, the vacuum cleaner. That was invented. So we've had technology that's changing the way we live our lives for a long time. So I don't think it's about transformation. I think it really is about disruption, because change is really now disrupting us. We're so used to be able to predict what change needs to happen, and we can't now because the environments around us are changing so quickly that we need to be able to respond rapidly to those changing situations. So I really think it's about the disruption that's facing us now. So who has heard, and I expect a number of hands to go up, the acronym VUCA, V-U-C-A? Yeah. What's it stand for? Correct. Awesome. So, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. It's an acronym that a lot of people sort of raise their eyebrows because it has been quite overused. And it's not new. It was an acronym that was put together in the 1990s by the US military to describe the conditions of warfare that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But since then, it's been adopted in business. And though, well, as I say, it might be overused, I quite like it because I really do think it describes the environment in which businesses are operating today in terms of the change. Change is volatile, it's big, and it's constant. Change is uncertain. As I say, we can't predict. We're not in the situation where you have that stability around us now that we can predict where we need to be in 3, 6, 12 months' time. Everything's changing. The competition is changing. Demands on the organisation are changing. So it's uncertain. And it's complex. There's lots of interrelated moving parts and interdependencies when we're faced with change. And it's ambiguous. Yeah. We have a lack of clarity about what change looks like. And it's about the unknown unknowns now. So this is the world we live in. And this is the world that we have to adopt organisational change management to help people adapt organisational change management to help people exist and not only thrive but survive in this sort of environment. We talk a lot about resistance to change, and I think we need to stop. We need to talk about resilience to change. If we are going to have to spend enormous amounts of time having to identify where there's resistance to change and put in tactics to try and overcome that resistance to change, if you've got infinite resources, go for it. But when we've got constant change hitting us all the time, we don't have time to do that anymore. What we need to do is focus on building resilience to change, building a workforce that gets this, that says, yes, change is complex, yes, it's constant, that's the world I live in, that's what I need to accept if the organisation is going to survive and I'm going to have a job. Yeah. The only time we should be really managing resistance now is when someone doesn't have that acceptance that change is constant. They're resisting the fact that it is unpredictable, it is uncertain, it is ambiguous, you know. It is the unknowns these days. That's what we need to manage. And we need to build a workforce that says, bring it on. We need to have a workforce that says, you know, yesterday I was heading in that direction and now I'm going this direction. And instead of saying, and that's management's fault, because they're incapable of not understanding where we're going, they say, no, that's the reality. Things will change because the world has shifted around us and we need to change accordingly. So how do we build resilience? And there's lots of material out there to talk about how you make people resilient. And I just want to pick on 3 particular things that I think are important in the world of organisational change management. So the first is autonomy. It's about getting out of the way and letting people get on with their jobs. It's about treating our workforce as adults and stop mollycoddling them as children. Treat them as adults. Get out the way and let them get on with the jobs the way they want to, when they want to, with whom they want to. Because nobody ever did anything great because they were told to do it. They did great things because they were allowed to experiment, they were allowed to create, they were allowed to innovate. They were given the autonomy to go and do what they needed to do. And that doesn't mean anarchy. A lot of organisations who've done this well, and I'll mention some in a moment, give their workforce principles or guidelines, which could be as simple as do the right thing by the organisation, do the right thing by the company, do the right thing by the customer, and do the right thing by your colleagues. If I am going to do something or make a decision or drive a change, and I can tick those 3 boxes, then go for it, because I'm doing it for the right reason. And if it doesn't work, fine. We learn by it and we move on. Okay. So one organisation, and some of you will know these stories, is Ritz-Carlton. They're a great example for decentralising decision-making and giving people autonomy and allowing them to self-manage. So Ritz-Carlton give their employees, who they call their ladies and gentlemen, $2,000 a day per guest to give the guest the wow factor or resolve an issue. They don't have to ask any permission to use that money or how to use that money. They're just told, give the guest a wow factor. So $2,000 a day per guest. And there's some great stories about what some of those employees have done with that money. and really gone, out on a limb and doing something. There was one story I'll tell quickly, where, and I can't remember the city, but there was a big ice hockey final happening, and this family were in this hotel. The two young boys were very excited, and they were playing hockey in the corridor of the hotel, much to the dismay of the other guests because it was very noisy. So one of the Ritz-Carlton employees took the money that he had, and he found that there was a room like this that wasn't being occupied, it was empty, and he basically built an ice hockey rink, not the ice, but the hockey rink, in this room. He went out and bought the nets, and he got the kids in this room. So the kids were happy, the family had the absolute wow factor, and all the other guests were happy as well. So that's just one example of some of the things these people have done. Now, I know you're asking, why is there this big yellow machinery up here? The other example I wanted to talk about was Caterpillar. Caterpillar were a really successful organisation. But in the 1980s, things started to decline. And in 1982, Caterpillar reported their first loss in over 50 years. And when they started to look at what the issue was, it's because people had a lack of autonomy. Their decision-making was centralized in their headquarters in Illinois. And if a salesman or woman in South Africa, in Pretoria, for example, wanted to give a discount to a customer to win the business, they had to get the decision made by headquarters in Illinois. And often headquarters in Illinois had no idea what the local conditions were in Pretoria, South Africa, so they couldn't actually make the right decision anyway. The person needing to make the decision was the salesman or woman on the ground with the competition, knowing what the ambient situation was and whether they would win the business by giving that discount and whether they'd still be profitable. So Caterpillar spent some time looking at this, and over the next sort of 10, 20 years, it took a while, they drastically flattened the hierarchy and decentralized the decision-making and pushed it out to where it needed to be. In 1992, they posted a loss, I think it was 2.4 billion US dollars. A couple of years ago, they posted sales of $40 billion. So they did the right thing. So we need to get out of the way and give people autonomy to get on with the job. Trust and respect. It's really a follow-on from what we just talked about. It's trusting people to do the right thing. Yeah? Let go and give people trust. Again, along those guardrails or the principles that I trust you to do the right thing by the organisation. Yeah? And giving people respect that they have good ideas and they should be heard. They're probably people on the front line who are dealing with customers and they know what the customer's demanding. Yeah? So, and there's one organisation, I wish I could remember the name of it, but they have this thing called D-Label. When they go into a meeting, nobody has a title. So everybody has the right to put forward their ideas, not because you've got your name on your door, your idea is any better than anyone else's. So they have this whole thing about delabeling. So they respect everyone's thoughts and contribution. And of course, as we know, trust is a two-way street. So as a leader in an organisation, we have to establish trust. And we do that by trusting our employees to do the right thing, giving them autonomy, getting out of the way, motivating, innovating, supporting, being available, and letting go of the control that so many people operate today. And thirdly, reliance on others. It's about making sure or establishing an environment in which everybody can rely on everybody else. It's about breaking down those silos and truly building cross-functional and collaborative teams. It's letting everybody have access to all the resources in the organisation. All the information, all the resources, all the people. And when that happens, people feel resilient. They don't feel that they're on their own. I feel that you've got my back. I can rely on you. If I'm stuck and I'm faced with a decision I need to make and I don't know what to do, I know there'll be no shame in me asking for help. And again, that comes back to trust and respect as well. And when we start to know that we can rely on others, people start building this network of trust that I know I can tap anyone in the shoulder in the organisation and they will help me, and it's no shame that I didn't know what to do in that situation. And that establishes a two-way street that starts to happen. And when I know I can rely on anyone else in the organisation, I'm going to be resilient in a situation where change is constant and it's just hitting me all the time. I don't have to know all the answers. Okay, so build resilience, just 3 areas. Autonomy, get out the way, let people do their job. Trust and respect, being a two-way street, and ensuring that everyone knows they can rely on each other. So, why do I believe change management or organisational change management is broken? Let's look at that. So, many of you in the room will know this quote from William Bridges in his 1991 book, Managing Transitions. And he said, it's not the changes that do you in, it's the transitions. And the reason he said that was because, to Bridges, and quite right, change is situational. Change is about new technology, or a new policy, or a new process. The transition is the psychology. And when we start looking at what goes on up here, that's why it gets complex and does your head in. Yeah. So I don't disagree with him with that. But William Bridges also said that there were 3 phases or 3 stages to managing people through change or transitioning them. There was losing and letting go. Yeah, so we try and get people to recognise we need to move on. There was the neutral zone, where we were neither in the old place or the new place. And then finally, there was new beginnings. Now, back in 91, that might have worked. Today, I don't think that works. I don't think we can let go, have a neutral zone, and then new beginnings, breathe. Because the changes are coming like this, behind us. Yeah, we don't have that luxury. So that's why I think it's broken. Can it be fixed? Absolutely. It doesn't mean that all the good things that we as change practitioners and a lot in the room, throw out. We just need to do it in a different way. I think organisational change management is broken because of this. Bridges and a lot of the other approaches and frameworks are based on a 1947, and I can see people nodding and smiling, on a 1947 model to transition people through change. And Kurt Lewin said, we need to unfreeze the current situation and prepare to move people to a new way of working. We need to transition them, get them to the new place, and then we need to freeze. And his words were to establish stability. There is no stability anymore. Yeah? So that's why I think it's broken. The accelerated implementation method from IMA talks about, and I'll probably get this wrong now, plan, implement, monitor. It's based on this, plan, implement, monitor. ProSci, how many people ProSci certified? A lot of hands. I love ProSci, it was the best training I ever did in my life. But prepare, manage, reinforce, breathe. Nah. We need to somehow accelerate that and do it a lot faster. It doesn't mean we don't do the things we do today. So, Gary Hamel, I wish I'd come up with this, and I say it was mine, but it wasn't. Gary Hamel and Michelle Zanini wrote an article for McKinsey back in 2014. And they said, it's not about this anymore. It's not about unfreeze, transition, freeze, because we're living in a state of constant slush. I wish I'd come up with that one. It's constant slush, and that's how we need to accept now. They also said, which I really agree with, it's no longer about change programs, driven from the top of the organisation and trickled down. Because by the time it's trickled down, the world's changed and moved on. It's about building a platform for change where everybody can drive change. Everybody can initiate change. Everybody can make decisions in the organisation. So it's a platform where it's everybody's job, where change is truly everybody's job. Is anyone here a member of the Association of Change Management Professionals? A couple of people. I didn't expect many hands because it's mainly US, Canada and a few places in Europe. But I was talking via LinkedIn to a lady and we were talking about speaking opportunities, etc. in the US. And she said that these guys, ACMP out of the US run a number of, an annual conference and a number of regional ones. And she said to me, I think you need to look at their standard. I went, really? Okay, I'll have a look at their standard. So, and this isn't to say that every framework's like this, but this was quite interesting. So ACMP, the Association of Change Management Professionals, has a change management standard that says before you do anything else, you need to tell people what it is you're going to do. So you need a change management strategy, a communication strategy, you need a whatever, change, implementation and readiness, learning, development, measurement and benefits realisation, and a sustainability strategy. That's in their standard. Then, when you've done that, that's the what you're going to do, you need to tell people how you're going to do it. So you need a resourcing plan. You need a stakeholder engagement plan. Really? In the words of Sweet Brown, ain't nobody got time for that anymore. That's not to say we don't need to know who our stakeholders are. Doesn't mean that we don't do communications, and we do. But we need to do it in a very different way. We as change management practitioners need to change. We need to break the way we're doing things. And some people in the room who know me, say, I'm standing up here talking about change, and I actually am change resistant by nature. Don't tell me at 5 o'clock someone's asked us to go for dinner at 7. Doesn't sit well with me. Tell me the day before, and I'm cool with that. But we need to fundamentally think how we do things when we have, and I've avoided using the word agile. I've just come out of an organisation that says, we do agile, but with a little a. Yeah. An excuse for not doing it, I say, that is. Yeah. So, but projects are now moving faster, they're delivering incrementally, they're delivering continually, they're identifying minimal viable product. What can we deliver that is value to the business? We don't wait 3-6 months to deliver something and release it, we're doing it all the time. So how does change management align with that? If we've got that situation going on over here, where projects are nimble, quick, whatever, and I'm over here, and I say, yep, project initiative, okay, comms plan, training plan, sustainability plan. Right, I'm ready. Where do they go? They've gone. Yeah, they've moved on. Or whatever I was going to work with them on has changed. So that's why I think we need to fundamentally change. We need to think about plans that are fluid, that will change all the time. Yeah. We need to start using sticky notes for organisational change and say, I need to do this, I'm doing this, I've done that. Yeah, the whole Kanban approach. Be transparent so everyone can see what it is that we're doing in organisational change. Plans on a page. Yeah, not these 50-page strategies. So we're in this new world that we need to adapt to. One of the things I think we need to do is simplify the roles in organisational change management. Now, I've been around a long time, and even I go into organisations and go, they're called what? And struggle to understand the roles and responsibilities. Now, I'm merging stuff now, but we hear about executive sponsors, primary sponsors, reinforcing sponsors, stakeholders, agents, targets, change practitioners, change analysts, change leads, change managers. You get the picture? Who does what? And one of the 4 banks, and I don't know, I think there might be some in the room, have come up with a new one. Journey planner. Seriously? So it's complicated. So I think we need to simplify it. And for example, if we think for every initiative that's taking place in the organisation, it's going bang, 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 that we can go and say, let's identify our sponsor, let's assess their capability, let's make sure they are active, they can communicate, they can coach, they can mentor, and we're going to do that for every change. It's not going to happen. We ain't got time for that. So I'm not saying you have to use this analogy, but those who know me, I'm from Liverpool, I'm a soccer fan, I'll say that here, I'm a footy fan, soccer fan, and I'm a big Red supporter. So I'm using a soccer analogy, but you could use any team game you like. So I say there's 3 roles. There's a manager, there's a coach, and there's a players. Just keep it simple. So the managers are the change management professionals, the change management practitioners, the centre of excellence that are driving organisational change through the organisation. They're driving organisational change to become baked into the DNA of the organisation, not something that we add on when we think about it. It's baked, it's just inherent and it's intrinsic. And that's what the managers work to. They are directing the game plan for the organisation. They are looking at how we ensure that organisational change can operate at the speed that's required. Because change is getting faster. It's not going to slow down. So how do we manage that? The coaches, I believe, are our sponsors. The thing that they sponsor are not individual projects or initiative. They sponsor the fact that change is constant and complex and ambiguous, uncertain, and it's just going to keep hitting us. That's what they sponsor across the organisation. And the things that we are doing are the right things because of the autonomy and the decentralised decision-making I talked about earlier. We don't have to justify all the activities in the organisation. We are doing them because we have to do them. We have to do them quick. If we want to stay ahead of the competition or stay relevant, it doesn't matter whether we're in a commercial environment or not. Yeah? If we're in government and we don't get this right, someone else will do it for us. So there is a what's in it for me. Yeah? So the coaches execute the great game plan. The coaches make sure that the players have all the capabilities and all the skills they need to operate in a world of constant change. They support, motivate, coach, that's why they're called coaches. They mentor, so they're there to support, and they inform the players of the game plan. The players, at the end of the day, are the people that are going to win or lose the game for you. The players are the workforce. The players are the employees. They will win or lose the game. It's not the managers and coaches, it's the players. And if you think about whether it's an AFL player or a Liverpool Football Club player, every game they play is different. Every game. The location is different, the ground is different, the pitch is different, the weather is different, the crowd and the supporters are different. The opposition is different. The position they play, or even the members of their team, could be different. The position they play could be different. They could even change position mid-game. Do they resist it? Oh no, I don't want to play that position this week. I was comfortable last week doing what I was doing. They accept it. That's their norm. Yeah? And that's where we need our workforce to be. Yeah, I'll have this hat today. I'm happy to have that hat tomorrow because I know that's what we need to do. I'm happy that change is constant. Bring it on. So I think there's those 3 roles: managers, coaches, and the players. And the players are probably the most important. To say they will win or lose the game. What else do we need to do? If that's our organisational structure, and there's always one. If that's our organisational structure, and we have someone down here saying, I've got a bright idea, and it goes boop, 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 up to the top where the decision making takes place, and it comes back down, goes, boop, boop, boop. Yes, you can do that. It's no longer relevant anymore, things have changed. So, and I'm not saying this is easy, but we need to kill the hierarchy. We really do. If our organisation is going to be truly nimble, agile, fast, responsive, we've got to do it. We've got to flatten the structure. Now, it doesn't mean we need to have a totally flat structure, yet there are some organisations that have done it, and they're awesome. There are some organisations that don't even have managers, and they are very successful. But I'm not saying we have to be that radical, even though it's not radical, it's been around long. Holacracy has been around a long time. So we need to flatten the structure so that decisions can be made quickly and responsive. So some of the organisations that I would suggest you, if you're interested in this, that have done it well, Zappos is famous for it, W.L. Gore, a sort of totally flat structure, Semco, Morningstar, GitHub, Pixar, yeah, there's quite a lot of them. Oh, Valve Corporation. If anyone's interested, look up just Google Valve Corporation Employee Handbook. It's amazing. It talks about how they manage without managers and how you choose what you want to work on. Yeah. So it's a really interesting organisation, Valve. The thing about those organisations that have done this, flatten the structure, is they have people knocking at the door to work for them. Yeah. Valve is a great one. It has a very, very lengthy and intensive, if you like, recruitment process because they make sure they get the right people in the organisation. They also, following induction, give you, and I can't remember the figure now, someone might know, let's say $10,000 to leave. They encourage you to leave the organisation because they want people to go if they're not comfortable after the induction. So they know they've got the right people. So Amazon who now bought Zappos are sort of looking at the same sort of thing, pay you to leave, which I think is quite interesting. Yeah, I could have been rich by now, all the companies I wanted to leave. So the other thing about those organisations as well, so they've got people clamouring, they're named as the top places people want to work for. They've also got very, very low attrition. People actually don't leave. So Zappos are not losing lots of money because everyone's saying, thank you, I'll take my money and run. They actually stay because they enjoy working there. So we need to flatten the structure. And what I meant to say, I knew there was something I was going to say at the very beginning. This, 40, 45 minutes is not going to give you all the answers. It's not a deep dive. You can check out my blogs at karenferris.com. There's a lot more depth there. This was more to provoke thinking, about what we can do back in our organisations. The other thing we need to do is pull on the energy and the ideas of everyone in the organisation. Doesn't matter who they are, there are lots of bright ideas out there that just don't get uncovered. Because people are still, and we've talked about this for a long time, but people are still scared to put their hand up. Because you're going to slap me down if it's, someone thinks it's a stupid idea. It goes back to that trust and respect. Encouraging people to put their hand up and say, I think I've got a good idea. Now, that idea might not be perfect, but then no one next to it might say, actually, if we did that plus this, brilliant idea. Yeah. And that's not anything radical. We just don't do it very well. We don't encourage that collaboration and innovation and creativity and experimentation. It's about allowing me to have a go, and if it doesn't work, fine. There's no blame for that. If we're going to be innovative, that's the only thing that's going to work. The other thing we need is adaptive leadership. Business now is all about information, and our leaders need to read that information and read the signals and decide what direction we go in. It can't be, I'm going in that direction and I'm just going to stay in that direction because that's the plan I set out to do. I have to be able to adapt and change at any point in time. And that can be easier said than done for some people. So adaptive leaders learn through experimentation, having a go. Let me try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this then. Okay. And they manage the context, not the rule book. There is no instruction set or rule book now that says if you're faced with ABC, you do X, Y, Z. It doesn't work like that anymore. We have to look at the situation in which we're in because it's going to be different, and we adapt accordingly. Adaptive leaders know what to do when they don't know what to do. And that's where we go back to resilience and reliance on others and trust and respect. And adaptive leaders say, I don't have the answer. Please come and help me find the answer to this as a collaborative. Yeah. And speed. The need for speed. This is what I've touched on. Organisational change management needs to move at the same speed and cadence as those people in the organisation delivering initiatives and change. We need to get rid of the strategies and the plans that are bound and signed off. They can't be signed off anymore because they're going to change on a daily basis. Yes, we need to start rethinking some fundamentals. Plans on a page. Where do we identify our stakeholders from? For those who have worked alongside or on agile projects, they have things called user stories. I am an engineer and I need X because I need to do Z. That's your stakeholder. It's already told you what they need and how they're going to be impacted. There's a starting point. We don't have to start from scratch. We need to embed what I call the coaches into our agile delivery and have our change management activities on the same Kanban boards that the agile projects are delivering. And be prepared to move them and change them as we go. We were going to do that yesterday, and that's not a priority anymore, this is. So plans on a page, fluid, nimble, and for me, it's not really radical, but I'm still seeing organizations trying to use the old way of doing things on projects that are just leaving them behind. They're just running. The train has left the station and I'm still writing a comms plan, Agile delivery is all about, user-centered design as well, getting users involved in the design, the beta testing. There's your training. Your beta testers are your trainers, your super users out there. So we just need to leverage the things that are happening in the organization better than we're doing today. So the need for speed is crucial. And this won't be a surprise to anyone in the room, I wouldn't have thought. But if we have a resilient workforce, they're allowed to be autonomous, they're allowed to make decisions and get on with the job, then we are going to have engaged and satisfied employees. When we have an engaged workforce, that means they're more productive, they're more innovative, they're more creative, the organisation's more profitable, etc. Yeah, everyone would nod to that, it makes sense. So we need to make sure they're resilient. We need to make sure that they say, bring it on. We need to make sure they're allowed to make decisions so that we can get all those things. Adecco in 2016 did some research. The organisations with highly engaged employees have twice the annual net income of those that don't. 81% of engaged workers will say good things about your organisation. And in the world of social media, that's really important because that can influence the customers of that organisation as well. Yeah. So 81% say good things. And 60% of engaged employees say the job sparks creativity. And in a world where change is constant, we need our workforce to be creative, to come up with new ideas and new ways of doing things. And then there's this one, the bottom line of everything that I've talked about this morning. So just ponder on this one. If an organisation had 500 employees, this was Workforce Info, did this research, and they used 2017 salary figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. So they based it on fact. And if you go to workforceinfo.com, you'll see how the calculations they did to get to this figure. So if you have an organisation of 500 employees, and you could reduce attrition, turnover, from 10% to 5%, you could save the business over $2.5 million a year, because they worked out how much it costs for employees to leave the organisation. Now, there's a lot of people in this room this morning working for organisations with a lot more than 500 people. So scale it. If we could save the organisation that sort of money, because we have a resilient workforce and all the things I've talked about this morning, and we are managing and preparing people through change, but we're preparing them for constant change. So, these are some of the things that I do. So I facilitate workshops, I speak, run training courses, coach and mentor change practitioners through change, and I write as well. I'm an author. I published Organisational Change Management book and another one on its way. But I can also write for your channels, for your workforce as well. So on that note, I thank you very much for joining me for breakfast. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.